Welcome everyone to Marvel Hub. This is DK Dynamite, and it's been a pretty busy couple of days in regards to leaks surrounding Avengers Endgame. But on top of the leaked footage, on top of some reliable sources coming through with some new information, which we will be talking about in this video and in some upcoming videos, there was a pretty interesting piece of information that came to my attention yesterday when Tessa Thompson apparently said this. I heard that a pitch has happened for another Thor film. I don't know how real that intel is, but I hear that the pitch has happened. I think the idea is Taika would come back. So Taika Waititi obviously is a director from Thor Ragnarok, and he even made it public that he would have no issue doing a sequel to Thor Ragnarok with this new revitalized Thor that he introduced in the film itself, and Chris Hemsworth was also open to doing another sequel as well. But obviously with the release of Avengers Endgame just around the corner, they don't want to spoil anything in regards to Thor's fate in the film. But obviously if they pitch another Thor movie, it'll be a movie with Thor. It won't be a movie with some other characters or characters from Thor Ragnarok only. Obviously Chris Hemsworth would be back as the God of Thunder, so no doubt about that. But I think it's quite interesting that even Tessa Thompson is talking about this, and obviously if she's hearing this, the intel might in fact be pretty damn reliable, which I'm looking forward to. But obviously spoils one thing: Thor will live through the events of Avengers Endgame, which automatically discredits any previous leaks out there that were saying that Thor was going to die towards the end of the film. Now, not to say the intel is 100% accurate that yes, a Thor 4 is 100% happening. It's very likely at this point, and they're going to wait until after Endgame to publicly announce that it's been pitched. But I do think that in regards to leaks that claim Thor is going to die, I just don't see them doing that, because for one, they can sacrifice Tony, they can sacrifice Steve, the two biggest Avengers right now. They can do that, and it might cost them a little bit going forward with phase 4 or maybe 5 and 6. It might cost Disney a little bit, because getting rid of the core Avengers just won't work out too well. Retiring them, keeping them open for cameos in the future is probably the best bet. So if they were to sacrifice Tony or Steve in a meaningful way, at the very least, keep Thor alive for future sequels, future appearances. He just got revitalized in Thor Ragnarok. He's a much better character now with a lot more substance that fans seem to enjoy a lot more than the Thor we had within the first two Thor films, the first two Avengers films. He's definitely a much better character now, which I never had a problem with to begin with, but other people definitely did, and it was really jeopardizing their ability to make Thor sequels. But with Taika Waititi's appearances here and there and hinting that a Thor 4 was definitely in the works to some capacity, it definitely gives us hope, because they definitely made it open that they're 100% down to do it. But obviously there are legal reasons why they didn't announce it a lot sooner. But on top of that, I also wanted to go over some other leaks that were posted over on the Marvel Studios Spoilers Reddit. There are a lot of leaks and threads to go over, so I'm going to break them down as much as I can in all of my upcoming videos here on this channel. So we're going to start off with this one. This is Avengers Endgame plot leak, highly accurate, from Bougie Bomb. So as the person wrote, from Charles Murphy, I got you. I'm not sure if OP has an actual source and they're filling in blanks, or if they just got lucky in a few guesses. I'll give you some random tidbits, which will prove I'm telling the truth after you see the movie. Early in the opening, the remaining Avengers track down Thanos on New Titan, which looks to have been renamed. He's already destroyed the stones and is living alone, having completed his task. He's about to monologue, and Thor cuts off his head, all before the opening title. The remaining Avengers feel they have lost, and then there is a time jump. Rocket and Hulk go to bring Thor back from New Asgard, and he's let himself go. He's chubby. Specific scenes from many of the previous Marvel movies are revisited via time travel through the quantum realm, which has already been figured out by savvy fans. The idea, of course, is to get the stones before Thanos can collect them. The interaction between our current surviving characters and scenes from past movies is a lot of fun. Think Back to the Future 2. It's a great way to honor the legacy, and I think people will really enjoy that part of it. Thor does not die, but he does offer Valkyrie the role as the new leader of New Asgard. Banner does get stuck as Hulk, but he's now Smart Hulk and can talk perfectly, like Banner, but in Hulk's voice. So I'm not sure if that means Mark Ruffalo is not going to return in future movies, but I highly doubt that. Now, Black Widow and Hawkeye go to retrieve the Soul Stone. One of them doesn't return. You do the math, it's Black Widow. Tony gets the gauntlet in the final battle and snaps Thanos and his army from existence, but he's been badly injured in the fight and dies dies in Pepper's arms, surrounded by the remaining Avengers. The snap return before the climax. It's a false win and everybody must fight together again when Thanos from the past returns. There is a permanent death before the final battle and another as a result of the final battle. The timeline is reset before the climax. Our heroes return except for Gamora, and average people don't remember anything. But with the reset timeline, that also means Thanos is alive again. A bad version of Nebula realizes what's going on during the time travel portion, and she helps Thanos get to Earth. There's also an evil version of Gamora who fights Quill. The final battle is as massive as you'd expect, with all our heroes fighting and getting their moments. The effects of the final battle are permanent, however. They visit Morag, but it's underwater. Asgard right before the attack in Thor: The Dark World. Thor talks to Frigga. Avengers Tower at the end of the first Avengers after Loki has been captured. Vormir, where another Avenger must be sacrificed to get the Soul Stone. That's the info I have. Watches are probably to synchronize their time travel, etc. My things to add. Professor Hulk is at Morag since in the leaked footage he's in a flooded area. The guy who predicted Fat Thor on Twitter says Thor cuts off Thanos' head and implied it's Thanos pre-time skip, which would mean we'd be getting an alternate Thanos, aka pre-snap, from the leaked footage. The Nebula with the orange hair could be the evil one as a way to differentiate. I got this from someone else's comment. Black Widow isn't seen in the final battle. Ancient One is probably seen during the New York battle where Professor Hulk would get the Time Stone since he knows where the Sanctum is, and Ruffalo mentioned filming for a day with her. So it seems there's at least 3 main deaths. Black Widow and Tony, and someone else during the final battle. Hell, I believe there might even be 4, which links up with the Dubon leak. I think Hawkeye dies protecting Captain Marvel. Also, don't forget the OG IW leaker who said Doctor Strange filmed a scene with an entirely CGI person that had a skeleton crew and high budget. This could be from the 5-minute post-credit scene. Hulk loses his arm from wielding the gauntlet. Possible a version of Cap will die fighting Thanos, holding him off. And that's it for this Reddit post. So in terms of what I think of the legitimacy of this actual leak, so without going into too much detail about the leaked footage, I'll do that in a separate video. This definitely does line up with some leaked footage we did get, and I'm not going to say what exactly lined up. I'll do that in a different video, of course. But in terms of the rest, it does seem like some blanks were kind of just filled in for the sake of filling it in. It doesn't really seem like Thor cutting off his head really makes sense. Now, although somebody who has leaked certain portions of the leaked footage before the footage even became live to the internet, although that person did kind of leak some accurate info, I still am not on board with Thor cutting off his head. Yes, it's a PG-13 film. Yes, you know, these Avengers movies could be dark. Yes, there are dark moments in the MCU, but it's still Disney. It's still the same company that doesn't do things like that, and they could definitely imply it, but I'm just not on board with something that graphic and brutal. And I do understand the point of it. Obviously, when Thanos told Thor you should have gone for the head, but then that leads me into whether or not it makes sense for Thor to cut off his head, and then all of a sudden that Thanos that did the snap is gone. And then we end up facing a pre-snap Thanos at the end of the movie. And I get the time travel stuff. It might be a little confusing to read. It might be more interesting to actually see it on screen to understand it. I definitely get that. But, you know, how big is the wait when they're fighting a Thanos pre-snap that hasn't really done anything other than maybe collect the stones, if he even has any during the final fight? So I'm just not sure how that exactly lines up, and I'm not sure if the leaker exactly thought about that when writing this. But in terms of the reason why I chose a specific leak for this video, as it says, Thor does not die, but he does offer Valkyrie the role as the leader of New Asgard. So if Thor doesn't die and he offers Valkyrie the role, then that obviously heavily impacts a Thor 4. You know, what would Thor be doing in a 4th movie if he's not leading New Asgard as he did in the comics? I could definitely see them ruling it together. I could definitely see potential for Valkyrie to be a love interest of Thor as they rule together. I think that would probably make more sense. And then eventually, you know, as Offspring comes and all these things happen, New Asgard, you know, keeps building, and eventually it's almost as big as it was before, except now it's in Norway instead of, you know, in a different realm. So I can definitely see that happening. But in terms of the deaths here and about the Soul Stone, so when the person mentions Black Widow and Hawkeye going to retrieve the Soul Stone, okay, that's a pretty cool team up to go pick up one of the Infinity Stones, but As we've also heard many times before, they may end up copying the essence from the stones instead of actually collecting the stones themselves. And I'm not sure how that would work, but obviously Ant-Man and the quantum realm are probably the best bet for how that would exactly work. Instead of actually having to sacrifice somebody on Vormir, they could just scan the stone in some capacity. Maybe at some point when Thanos collects the Soul Stone and goes to Titan, maybe somehow they go to Titan, and while he's not looking, they somehow scan it from a distance. Ant-Man shrinks down and scans it in his gauntlet or something. They could do something like that, but in terms of the sacrifice, I'm not sure if they're going to go that route again, because it almost seems like that sacrifice will be reversed later on in the movie once the Soul Stone is either destroyed or the Soul Stone is somehow opened up to revive all the dusted characters. So it seems like there's no point in wasting screen time on another death in the Soul Stone when it's going to be reversed towards the end anyway, especially when Gamora comes back, because obviously we have Guardians 3 coming out in a couple of years. So there's almost no point in doing another Soul Stone death, just in my opinion, because we obviously didn't know what was going to happen when we first saw Infinity War. But also with Tony dying in Pepper's arms, surrounded by the remaining Avengers, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's a good enough death for Tony. I feel like he should go out a different way. He is going to pass away, but many people are suggesting that he does deserve to retire after all he's been through, after all the character growth and development, after learning and building more morals ever since the first Iron Man. And I agree with that, but I think at this point, people are expecting at least one or two massive deaths in this film. Not that I think we even need massive deaths to make this a good film or a good fitting end to this 22 film arc. I think the retirement thing also works with just about any character in Endgame, obviously besides Thor, if Thor 4 is of course happening at some point, but deaths are not necessarily needed to make this movie a fitting end, as I said. So I wouldn't be disappointed if neither Cap or Tony pass away in this film, but if anybody's gonna die, if I really had to choose, I'd probably go with Cap, just because Iron Man is the pioneer of the MCU, and I really would rather have him be, one that just sits out until he's needed again in the future, or he's kind of behind the scenes running S.H.I.E.L.D. at some point. That's what I'd rather have, along with his happy ending with Pepper and his future child. Why set that up in Infinity War if he's just going to die in Endgame? I just don't see the point in that. But let me know what you think of this down below in the comment section. This has been DK Dynamite. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Turn notifications on to stay updated with latest and greatest Marvel news and information. Thank you so much for watching, and peace out, everyone.